Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. Today, my guest is film editor Namrata Rao. I had a pleasure of speaking to her late last year, or mid to late last year, for her directorial work on Amazon documentary series Angry Young Men. Today, we go back to her roots when she first started in her early days, editing a very popular film called Baaja Baaraat, which came from India, starring Ranveer Kapoor and Anushka Sharma. We had a great chat, and without further ado, here's my conversation with editor Namrata Rao for Baaja Baaraat. Good to have you again. I saw Baaja Baaraat last night after a long time,
Yeah,
and and I couldn't believe it's been 15 years
yeah,
almost.
I can't believe it either. Yeah,
And the great
December
thing about,
2010.
pardon me,
It released in 2010 December.
was it December 2010? So almost 14 years then.
14 years, yeah.
Yeah. And the first thing I noticed about it that really put a smile on my face, among this is just me being a film nerd, was I could tell that it was shot on film. Like
Yes,
the grain and like you could just feel it right away. And that was the first thing I noticed. And the colors were obviously vibrant as opposed to now everything is so monotone and like it's just
yeah,
totally different, right? But aside from that, what a great film, still holds after all this time. And
ab-
yeah, so great to have you to talk about from the editing standpoint. And it was probably one of your major first films, if I'm not mistaken, to work on.
yeah, it was my first film for a studio. Because before this, I had done three films, Oy Lucky, Love, Sex or Dukkha, and Ishkia, all of which was sort of not considered so commercial, etc. So Baja Barat was my first song with lip sync songs, first film with lip sync songs. Yeah.
Ishkia was great, by the way, which we'll talk about some other time.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it.
yeah, I love
My
it too.
faves. It was a really great learning experience.
So tell me how you got on board. Just let's start with the journey of getting on board on Band Baja Barat. And I think Anushka Sharma had only done one or two or three films until then. Ranveer Singh was debut. And yeah, just kind of talk to me about the journey of getting on board, and then we'll get into the technical and the nitty-gritty stuff.
Actually, Ishkia released on, I think, end of Jan
Mm,
2010. It was 28th or 30th, I forget, whichever was the Friday. And I went to one of the theaters with a friend to see how people were reacting. So we were standing outside the ticket window trying to overhear conversations, etc. Is when I get this call that, there is this film for Yash Raj, which is the studio, and the director wants to meet you. I think the director only called me, if I remember correctly. He said,
mm.
"My name is Manish, and I saw Oi Lucky Lucky Oi, and I want to meet you." I told him, also, my film has released today. Please watch it. So he said, "Okay, I'll watch it, and then we can meet in the later in the evening." So we met the same day, and I mean, we had a Delhi connection. We were both in Delhi University at the same time, and we both speak Hindi the same way, which is not very common in Bombay. Bombay Hindi is a bit different. So when you meet a Delhi wala, you're like, ah, you know. So our language was the same, and we really connected on Delhi University. And he said, the film is that, and he also said that I want this film to be very collaborative, which is something I liked. I thought that was not really very studio talk or something like that. So I decided to do it, and he gave me the script. When I read the script, I thought it was very bit too centric script, like it was more from the guy's point of view,
Yeah.
which I told them. And I mean, because we had such a strong female actor, Anushka's so good, so spontaneous. So when we started watching, putting the scenes together, she also became, like almost as much as Bittu, if not more. Because for me, the film is, of course, it is about the two of them together. But for me, it was always about Shruti Kakkar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I think that
it
connect.
It was, I think. I mean, that's even after watching after 14 years, like it just, because he wants to join her
Yeah,
company, right? And it's like she's trying to give him a break, for the lack of a better word. And the journey sort, and then how she feels after the
yeah,
intermission and all that. So for me, it was always about her. And I think even at the time, I may have felt that because when Ranveer Singh was brand new, I don't think anybody cared, right? So it was more about her
yeah,
from that standpoint too.
yeah, totally. Because she is the one who starts with clarity. Then also she's the one who becomes really vulnerable. You know how she starts calling him up and and then like I'll make tea for you and all suddenly that switch happens. It's all funny, right? It
Yeah,
happens to people. So it was good fun to do it.
yeah. You
Then we
know,
did one scene was shot and written and shot later. You know the chow mein scene where both of them are sitting and having chow mein and
really,
talking about friendship and how they like each other or what they'll do in the future. I think I don't remember the exact content, but it was a friendship scene
yeah, yeah, I
where
remember.
you
Yeah,
see that their connection is strong, they have a bond. So that was written and shot later.
yeah. Okay,
So
well,
were a
that's
lot
awesome.
of small sequences where they're organizing weddings. They keep they're standing next to the thrones of the bride and grooms, and the bride and grooms keep changing, and they are there. So all those things we shot later
Got
as
it.
the edit kept developing. It
So
was
was the film already shot or halfway in production when you were brought on board, or?
I started almost at the same time. They had only shot one scene and one song. So they
Okay.
wanted me to give a small test, because I'd never done lip sync songs. So they wanted me to do Bari Barsi, the first song that comes,
Mm,
which she's singing at the wedding. They
right.
wanted me to cut it and then have see whether I can do lip sync songs.
Great. The most interesting part about that timing of that film was, personally for me, so between 2007, but specifically from 2010, like early 2010, we were running a company that we were where we did wedding cinematography around the
Mm,
world. Around the world. We even did it in India, Africa, Europe, and everything. And 2010, I remember in April, from April to January, our business just went through the roof, like before the film came out. And when I saw the film, because I had seen so many weddings, mostly Indian, right? Like Indian,
yeah,
Pakistani, it was just to the point about how even dealing with wedding planners and all that. Yes, the culture, a little bit difference, even though same, but the idea and everything was to the point about how it was the essence of wedding was captured from a business standpoint as well as from how the brides and the groom and the family and all that stuff deal with. So that was really really cool, and I think that's why I probably resonated with it more. If I had not been doing that, it probably wouldn't have been the same.
maybe. I mean, for
Yeah,
me, film always was more about witnessing two people fall in love. The weddings and all, of course, I mean, I really enjoyed them, and they were essentially the backdrop. It was actually about witnessing how two people become friends, they develop feelings, then they have concerns. It was that, and then they get into misunderstandings. We all have our pride, and then how
yeah.
it's resolved. So
But but the thing is, so just to be fair, the thing is, a lot of films, I think things have sort of changed now. But when it comes to love stories, like they're more about the same thing, right? Like,
yes,
right? So
it is. But you know the difference. That's why I say witnessing of the falling in love.
yeah,
Because usually in films, you see that in one montage, these two have fallen in love. So you don't really know. I mean, of course, there's banter in the beginning, and there is some, sweet moment, soft moment, intimacy, all that happens. But there's always I always wonder that what does he like about her and what does she like about him. I wonder that in a lot of romantic films. that what exactly do they like about each other? Okay, now we move to the conflict, now all this is happening, but why do they like each other? For me, Banbaja was that. Maybe that was the lens with which I approached it. That it is about witnessing, which is why that Charmin scene was also very important for us, to
Mm,
have that, to see that this is the kind of bond these two have. Because when that scene was not there, I think that witnessing was a little less.
interesting. That's a good point. That's a good point. I, I also feel that the idea of putting people together, I think that was more interesting. Like, you're trying to get people's weddings, you're trying to get involved in their wedding and how you're trying to help them get, united, for the lack of a better word, be one. And then here you are trying to deal with that same situation but not understanding it. So that oxymoron,
Yeah,
that stood out more. And I think at a subconscious level, that worked a lot because here you have two people trying to do this, but they don't even know how to do it themselves.
yeah, yeah. That's a nice way to put it. Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
Um, in terms of the process of editing, right? Like as the now that you've done the lip sync, the song and the scene, how what was your process as the production was going on? Were you on the set? Were you dealing with the rushes? Were they coming to the studio? Just run that by me.
So initially they were shooting and I was just editing. But
Hmm.
once we put the whole film together and we saw that, okay, we can do this or we can add something here, then the second part of the shoot, I was there. I went to the set and all that. But honestly, I mean, we spoke about this last time also. I'm not a big fan of being on set because I feel I
Yeah.
become a little sensitive to, the logistics and how difficult it was, etc., which is not really my job. My job is to really judge the rushes, right? Like for what they are. So, but I did go, and especially the montages that I'm talking about, the wedding montages that we did. There was another scene in the end where they meet for the big wedding, which was shot much later. So, those kind of things. But otherwise, I was editing while they were shooting.
So from a different standpoint, like you direct as well, right? So or even I don't know at that time if you had the inclination to direct or even, so was
No.
there ever okay, so is there ever even now a chance that, maybe I want to go on the set aside from the editing thing, like the selfish reason, maybe I get to see what's happening on the set and
Yeah,
pick
yeah,
some learning
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah. Absolutely. Now I feel very hungry to be on set. In fact, I miss it a lot. You know,
Yeah.
it's I think it's like an addiction. I've heard even others say that energy of being on set, of seeing things get created, it's amazing. But thankfully, at that time when I was editing this film or the others around it, that thought hadn't entered me. I was still a very purist editor. So I think I didn't, I was not really keen on doing it, keen on going on set, unless
Gotcha.
it's on a foreign locale. Then, of course, then it's very important to take the editor.
Yes. The traveling I have a my DP is a great friend of mine and he's amazing at
Mm.
what he does. But and I know him well enough to know this so that I can joke around with it. Like I know that he loves traveling, so
Yeah.
I can take him anywhere for anything and he'll be okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. I belong to the same category. It's like,
So do I. So do I. I think we all do. I think we all do. We love traveling. And it actually traveling really opens you up, right? Like for
absolutely.
creativity purposes, it just like it shows you the world the way you've never seen it before.
Yeah, especially when you're shooting, you're interacting with the locals in a very different way. You're staying there. It's not just a quick touch and go. So it's really nice. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
been very lucky to travel with quite a few films.
Which
So
ones?
I went to Jab Tak Hai Jaan set. So we went to London, Srinagar, Gulmarg, Pahalgam. Then Befikre, I was in Paris while the film was being shot. I went to Croatia with Fan and What else? One more I'm forgetting. Also some local stuff, you
Of
know.
course, that's
Yeah.
traveling too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
different culture everywhere. I I I remember I was in when I was in India, I was in Bangalore. I went to Amritsar. We were supposed to go to Mumbai. We got sick. We never went. Delhi, Agra, Jaipur, and Pune, and they were all very different from each other,
Yeah,
right? It's a
absolutely. Yeah.
totally different world. When you're
Different
working,
countries.
yes, yes, 100%. When you're working on a film like Baaja Baaraat or anything else,
Mm.
in terms of, and we all as artists, right? Like we, whether we're directors, we're writers, we're editors, there's always that personal thing that lingers
Mm.
and somehow gets translated into what we're doing, knowingly or unknowingly, right? W- As an editor, has that sort of ever happened to you where you realize that your personal, whatever that is, right? I'm not trying to get into that, thoughts and personal experiences kind of being translated into and you picked it up like, oh, I'm doing this because of that, or
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. I mean, all the films that I feel I've done a good job with, I've related extremely with one character or the other. Like
mm,
resonated a lot. So Shruti Kakkar's character was very relatable for me. It really resonated with me. I think I knew where she's from. I grew up in a similar kind of Delhi, not the very posh Delhi, just like Shruti. Then also this whole, being very focused, wanting to uh, do everything as a checklist. I think I relate to all that too. And so for me, it was her. She was my gaze into the film. For me, it was totally from Shruti Kakkar's lens. Of course, I mean, you don't feel it because it's not written like that. But I think for
mm,
me, it was her softness. It was about her. And I mean, that was my entry point. Like in Kahani, for me, it was Vidya. Like I could totally, completely feel this woman who's in an alien city all by herself. I don't know. I mean, it resonated so much with me because that's the life I've lived. So lived by myself for very long, dealing with your own personal stuff on your own. So I really resonated. Even in Ishkia, Krishna's character, similarly, like very seething, not very. I don't think I am Krishna in that sense, but I related to aspects of her whole dilemmas, so.
right.
So I think it helps to have. I was also very lucky, like you're saying, that whole period where there were films like Band Baja or a Kahani or an Ishkia, even say a Shanghai, where there was, I mean, these kind of films had very strong women characters. So it was very easy for me to relate with them, and I was very lucky to get one film after another where I could really attach myself to one of the characters and enter the world of the film. Of course, as an editor, you have to be empathetic to everybody. In fact, I mean, that is what you have to do. You have to relate to the bad person, the good person, the in between person, the neutral person, everybody. But, you enter the world through someone. You have a soft spot for one character.
Yeah,
So I think for me, it is usually the woman character.
fair enough.
Unless, like, I did a film which was very different, Jayesh Bhai Jordar, in which I think I connected more to Jayesh because his whole struggle of standing up in front of his father, I mean, I thought it was so universal. So it was easy for me to relate with him than with the female character. So that also happens. I mean, there's no rule, but it's
Mm,
it's always helpful to have one character with whom you have, you know, hotline.
yeah. No, it's true, and I think the more you, sometimes it's a curse for your own sanity, but
It
for
is.
the film's benefit, it's really good that you feel like you are the person, the character in the film, right? Like you start seeing all these things that are not may not even be there. Oh yeah, he's like this because I'm like this too, right? He's doing this because he's thinking like this and I'm thinking like this too. So for you as an individual, because then you
It
start
is
getting these things.
absolutely. I've heard my therapist say it very often that it's called misplaced empathy. But I think it really helps to have that kind of empathy for everyone as an editor. It really helps. Like Javed
100%.
Sab says that dialogue writing is an act of schizophrenia, because you have to think like so many different characters sometimes who are actually opposite each other, and you have to be equally justifying both of them. I think even editing is like that. You have to do the best for each and every character,
Yeah.
but you
No, I
still,
agree. I mean, creativity is all about empathy, right? And if you don't
yeah,
have empathy in the characters, then in my book, I call it propaganda, and then that's not art. Then it's lost its way and
yeah.
it's going in a different direction. One comment I really wanted to make, you know, I'm a huge fan. I may have said this to you last time. I'm a huge fan of shots where the frames are wider because you can see the environment, you can feel the character in the environment, but also holding on to a cut unless it's necessary, right? And there were a lot of times in this film when, I mean, if you watch a film nowadays, um, back and forth very, very quickly, right? With the exception of some directors who've been around for a long time, even in Hollywood. But with Baaja Baaraat, there was a lot of times I was so pleased that, a certain shot was just left as it was, like you just wait for the person to connect to the audience as opposed to getting a reaction shot, from the other person that he or she may be talking to. And this is just a comment. I thought it was really, really well executed in that sense because that's where you connect with the correct character at a very deep level, right? So kudos to you on that.
Thank you. I mean, I like to see things like that. I like to edit things like that. I've always done that. Because for me, cutting very fast is equivalent to, like when I'm speaking, but you just want to say something
Yeah,
and not really listen to me. You already know what you're going to say. So
yeah.
when there's too much cutting, I always get that insecurity that, oh, the other character isn't listening. They just want to say something fast.
That's true. That's a really good way of putting it. That's a really good way of putting it. Awesome. I had never thought of it that way. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
and it starts to give me anxiety that, oh, I'm not being heard, or, like, not me, but this character is not
Yeah,
being
yeah.
heard. And I also feel that maybe it's the right time for me to not edit so much, because I don't think I can do that. I mean, I don't enjoy it so much. Of course, I can do it. I don't think I enjoy it so much.
Right.
I like to listen. I like to see, observe, get into things. You
Well, that's a sign of a good director.
Thanks.
Um, would you agree if I said this that, if you look at films,
Hmm.
let's say from 40s until 2000, with some exceptions, there are some exceptions where where the story, the characters or the music were great, the story was great, but the technical aspect of the production was not there because technology was not there, right? Like a lot of shots, the way that things are done now, didn't exist even 50, 20 years ago. I feel even in Hollywood, it's more like from 1990 to 2010. And I think in India, it's more like 2000 to 2013, where the marriage between technicality, story, and characters was more or less spot on, you know.
Mhm.
And now I think, again, there are some exceptions where technicality has become way too much and the story and character is lost.
Yeah.
Would that be a fair statement? I mean, you're in the industry, so I'm just your thoughts on
I
that.
mean, my observation is similar. I think so too. But of course, there are exceptions. And
Yes, yes,
I think everybody's slowly coming back. And maybe it happens cyclically, because
it
this is
does.
a universal fact that story. is where it all begins and ends. At the end of the day, it is like, while I was doing Angry Young Men, Ramesh Sippy said this, and I thought it was really profound. He said it all starts with the word, and it does. So even now, like I was watching Terminator the other day, which is from early 90s.
The
And of
second
course,
one?
yeah,
Okay.
and the technology is not the same as it is now. But I really thoroughly enjoyed it. Or Basic Instinct. I watched that also recently. I don't know why I'm watching early 90s Hollywood these days. So it's not so much the technique what that is engaging me. There is an emotional thread that's holding me there. So
Yeah. No, it's actually true. For most part, I do not watch anything. I shouldn't say anything, but I watch more old stuff than new stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Right? I had Steven Rosenbaum, who was one of the VFX supervisors for Terminator 2,
Oh,
which we're gonna post in the next couple of days, and we talked about the very similar thing, like how technology was. I think that film's visual effects are way better than even stuff that comes out today, and whether that is because less is more and also that emotional thread, it just worked. I mean, I saw it like all this stuff. It's just crazy how real it looks,
amazing.
right?
Oh, wow. I'll be very curious to see this because I just watched the film. I really enjoyed it.
I'll send it to you. I'll send it to you so you can take a listen. When Baaja Baaraat was completed, right? What was the did it have any test screenings? Did Aditya Chopra see it, or how much re-edit that you had to do aside from the scene that you had to pick up shots and everything? What just talk to me about that if it was just a simple process or
Actually, there were three people in the edit. Manish, the director, me, and Adi, the producer. He was
hmm
very involved with the process of the edit. So he was watching it as I was editing it. Like it was not something that he saw at
out
the
of the
end.
blue? Mm.
Yeah. So he was a very big, in fact, he gave some really good ideas. There's one scene where she's crying. She tells, after the whole, once she realizes that, oh, he's not into me, she waits for him in the office and she's like, hey, chai bana. You remember that scene?
Yeah,
And
yeah, 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 yeah.
she has headphones in her ear and she takes them off and then she starts crying. And there's a jump cut there, which I mean, which was Adi's idea, and I really like it. I mean, I haven't seen the film very recently, but
I
it was,
remember the jump cut, yes.
yeah, you notice it, it's a statement, that jump cut. It was totally Adi's idea, and many such things. There are many scenes which we cut out because of his suggestion. So it was really good. So he was there throughout the process. So it was in the screenings we did have. So it was the three of us and the whole world with, because we were nervous about having a new boy, and are the songs big enough hits. You are, I mean, those kind of things. Then there is a buzz on kitni opening lagegi. The
Box office
market
opening.
research is not
Yeah.
showing that it's going to get a good Friday. Those kind of things you start hearing. And actually we didn't get a good Friday, but Saturday onwards the film really picked.
Yeah. No, it's one of those films that definitely spreads its wings based on word of mouth, right?
Yeah.
And I think the music, I mean, I have heard those songs at weddings. I can't even tell you how many times, right? So, again, it's always about the characters. Now, once the film became successful, or the week went by, or 2 weeks, you as a editor at that part of your career in your life, your emotional reaction, whatever that is. Do you remember the feeling that you got?
Oh, I was elated. I was so happy because, of course, there were people who were saying, whatever, what is the big deal? Another rom com from YRF and all. But there were so many people who were really connecting. And I went to the theaters and saw the reaction, and that was really gratifying
Yeah.
to see that they're laughing at the right places, then they're making the right kind of sound. It was really good. Even the kissing scene, where they kiss for the first time at the office party, and we had an internal argument. I've spoken about it before, but uh, so we held the kiss, right? Like it's a single shot. We cut much later. You see how it happened, and that was the idea. So when Adi saw it, he said, I think we need background music here because people will start to get uncomfortable. Like, most people here in our country, they start to get uncomfortable in intimate scenes. And you're holding, holding, holding. This will not work. So both Manish and I used to feel, no, no, no. It works very beautifully because that tension is building only because there's no background music. And then there was a lot of back and forth, and Adi finally convinced us that, guys, trust me, it won't work. So let's put a wine glass effect. So we put a wine glass effect. Right now, there's just like, like that. And we saw it in a single screen cinema here. And you won't believe, even with that wine glass effect, people were laughing. I mean, that uncomfortable laugh.
Hmm.
So everybody was laughing because they were uncomfortable. And then we were thinking, oh, maybe we should have put background music and not wine glass. But much later, many years later, when I see it now, I think it was good. I mean, good that it doesn't have music, background music, that proper music.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you talked about no music, right? And I think a lot of times great scenes in films, no matter where they're from, get completely lost with
Yeah.
the presence of music, right? I,
Yeah.
I, I, I get the reason for music, I understand it, but sometimes your audience needs it. Like for example, I love Christopher Nolan films, right? I don't know if you've seen Oppenheimer.
Yeah, I
Uh,
have.
I The whole film had music
Hmm.
aside from the nuclear testing,
Yeah.
and that threw me off completely. It's a great soundtrack, but just to listen to, there was no break, and I think audience needs that break, especially in key moments.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you guys fought for that because it's very, very important.
Yeah. So I mean, I realized where Adi was coming from because he was proven right. He was. I mean, it is not easy to hold such a long scene without background music in India. I mean, at least it was not at that point. I think we've really evolved in the last 14 years. But at that point, it was a big deal.
Yeah. Would it be fair to say that your career took a a not, I wouldn't say a good change, but like it just sped up after that?
Yeah, yeah, it did, of course. Yeah. I mean, it gave me a lot of confidence because it was a mainstream film.
Mm.
It had lip sync songs. And uh, I really enjoyed working and collaborating with Adi and Manish. I mean, they were so good to work with. We really connected. We were all working for the film. It was really great. So it was one of the best experiences, really. Like all that I had heard about working in the studio system and all, it was not like that at all. It was so good.
Yeah, I saw the film, the documentary series, The Romantics, when it came out, I think last year.
Yeah,
And obviously, I mean that the whole trailer is about him never being interviewed, and it was very, very, very interesting individual, very humble, very articulate, um,
yeah, and
and
very fun. Very knowledgeable about films.
films. Yeah, I mean, if you look at his films in terms of direction, like two of the three films I think he directed were super hits, right?
He's
Like
directed four,
four. Which one's the fourth one? Oh,
basically.
basically, right. Yes, yeah. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. I saw the trailer and it just didn't connect with me. Maybe I will give it a shot, but I know he was trying. The thing with him is he experiments a lot, right?
Yeah,
Which is if you see all the films that he's done, they're
yeah,
very unconventional. I mean, they seem very conventional now, but at the time they weren't.
yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a very big fan of Rabni Banati Jodi. I never understood him.
Really?
No.
I didn't like Mohabbatein at all. I thought that was way over melodramatic, but that's just my opinion. Um, but Rab Dev Nadi Jodi, I thought it was a very tight story. I know there was it was somewhat similar to Band Baja Barat, I would say, in a certain way because it was very focused on two characters.
Yeah, but he also becomes this other
Yeah,
character,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And for
yeah,
me, that
yeah.
was hard to buy. That was not an easy thing to buy.
Oh, like as in like she can't recognize him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I
Well,
couldn't suspend disbelief so much. I think I could. And he's Shah Rukh Khan, so even more so.
well, you have an opinion. I mean, it's okay. You have a
Yeah.
right to have your opinion. Where we talked very briefly about this last time in the beginning as well, that are you focusing more on directing now, or would you still like to
Yeah.
edit, or editing is long gone for now?
Not long gone. I mean, I don't think I can ever stop editing. I'm always editing, even when I'm looking at people, I'm always making scenes.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean. I'm talking about in the actual post-production.
No, I think I'll stick to direction
Yeah.
because I've done, yeah. I mean, I started editing in 2005. It's been good 20 years. Now, I think 20 years to direction.
So is it because, and I'm asking you this because I am speaking from my own personal
Mm.
experience. There was a time I've edited a lot, like from branding videos to films to everything, right? Events. Um, and there was a part of me which was like, I always want to edit because, I think most editors, if not all, are introverts, right? Like they just don't like to get out and,
Absolutely. They're
right?
highly functioning introverts, I think. Like,
Yeah. But then a time came, I think, after I directed my first three films. After the third film, like, okay, I think I'm done with editing, right? Because I start liking the on-set experience more. And now, even though, yeah, I will do some edits here and there, some rough cuts and everything, but I enjoy that more. And I don't think I'm that much of an introvert person anymore because I don't like being an introvert anymore. Is that something similar to personality you feel for you?
yeah, I agree somewhere. I mean, you've articulated in a very interesting way. I'm just thinking, I'm resonating with it because I have been an introvert somewhere also because I've never come from a film family. Like I've never had exposure to films growing up. Also, I
Mm,
never had people to discuss films with. So when I came to Bombay and started working as an editor, I was highly aware that I don't know a lot. I was very, very aware of it. So just working very hard and very diligently and fully pouring myself into something slowly gave me that confidence. It was really just the work, not even the reward. So now I have the confidence to say that, okay, I always wanted to direct or I always wanted to tell the stories that I want to tell, but I needed this preparation because
yeah,
editing really taught me building blocks, which block to put after what and what kind of impact it can create. It's a really powerful learning. I
it
mean,
is.
it is, right? And
It,
if you've edited, you'll understand what I'm saying that, like
100%.
doing Angry Young Men, I was thinking if I had not been an editor, I don't know how I would have done it. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. It's interesting you say that because yesterday I'm going over the script that I'm working on right now,
Mm.
and I'm talking to another scriptwriter, but I'm just going over a draft, and I'm just reading it. You know how you go over it over and over again, like just trying to figure things out. And there's a scene in there, and it kind of goes back between time periods. And there's a scene in there that's at a certain point where I felt it shouldn't be here. It should be up here, right? And when I just literally cut and paste that, I'm like, I wonder if I was able to do this if I had not edited,
Yeah.
right? And literally that's all it is. Like it's every single thing is just you're just editing everything from a
Yeah.
dialogue standpoint, from a scene standpoint, from an action standpoint. Um,
Emotional continuity standpoint. For me, that is
yeah,
so important. Like you're leaving a scene when I'm reading something. If I'm leaving a scene at a place, where do I pick up the next scene from? and why? It's good fun if you've edited
It
before.
is.
You know.
I I'll tell you a story because I was talking to um, the gentleman who wrote Bram Stoker's Dracula, uh,
Oh,
J.V. Hart. He's worked with Francis Ford Coppola a
you
lot of
talk to
times.
all these interesting people.
So he told me a story, and this is such a, and you will appreciate it as an editor. So The Godfather Part II, when it came
Hmm.
out, they screened it, right, like test screening, and Ford Coppola saw the reaction that the audience wasn't connecting. Like the reaction of people were just absolutely negative. Like, what is this? And he went back to his apartment or hotel, and he's like, he went underneath his bed and lied down under the bed, and just trying to figure out what have I done? Have I effed this up, right? After the success of The Godfather, and it either was him or his editor or both of them. It hit them. They figured out what the problem was. The problem was that you've seen The Godfather Part II, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So you know how it goes from one time period to another.
yeah.
What they realized was whenever they went back into the past with Don Corleone's Robert De Niro character, those scenes were almost only always 10 minutes long. And they realized that if they make them 20, that may work. And that's all they did. And the film worked. Because
Wow,
the audience was needed time to emotionally connect with the characters before being taken away to another time period.
absolutely.
And that's,
I
I just thought you would appreciate it. It's such a powerful, you
absolutely
know.
amazing. And even I have experienced that sometimes people are not connecting to a scene or to a film, and you make it longer, and they find it shorter. They feel, oh, now it's moving very fast.
Yeah,
Everybody,
it,
it's amazing.
it's also human psychology, man. Like filmmaking is all human psychology.
It
You
is.
know,
Because if I'm really invested in you, then 2 hours are flying by. When I'm not invested, even 5 minutes feel like a lot.
eternity. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, it's been amazing to chat with you again. I
Good
saw
fun.
Baaja Baaraat yesterday. I don't know if it's on Amazon Prime in India. It definitely here's
I think it
here
is. It is.
and
The
shot
whole Yash Raj
anamorphically.
library is on Amazon.
Is it over there? Okay, awesome. So yeah, shot anamorphically, which I enjoyed on my anamorphic monitor, which I thought was lovely. Shot on
Yeah.
film and great fun film and
Yeah.
great songs and great work. Thank you so much for being
Thank
part of
you.
it.
I hope you like Dum Dum, and that's my favorite thing to watch on the big screen. I mean, I used to go to screenings only to see that song
The
because I
the
love
song
it.
at the end, right?
Yeah, the Shah Rukh
Yeah,
song,
yeah,
with all
yeah.
those laser effects and all that. Because it was the first time I cut a song which was shot with three cameras. So the actors are
Ah.
dancing once, but they've shot in three different camera angles. And then to cut them together, it was so much fun. Maza aa gaya.
You ever have you ever done music videos? I mean, because essentially that's what it is, right? Just
Yeah,
cutting.
thank
Yeah,
you. I like singing, dancing. So yeah, I enjoy that.
amazing. Well, it's been a pleasure, Namrita. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
I'm
It was
sure
good fun.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure
All
you're
the best
busy.
for your shoot. I hope,
Thank you.
yeah, and I'll watch it whenever it's out. Let me know.
Yes, I will. I will. We are
Look forward.
fingers crossed, right? So, thank you
Okay.
so much, Namrita. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.